Hustlers, and welcome to our final episode of 2024. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Brunslick, and I am excited you are here today. If you are brand new to the podcast because you saw Best of, and that's where you like to jam, welcome. Welcome. So this is part 2 of our Best of 2024. Last week was part 1. There you go. So these are short clips from episodes in 2024 that did the best in downloads, shares, comments, all of that. If you are new here and like today's episode, I would absolutely appreciate you clicking subscribe or follow, whether you are listening on Spotify or Apple. It helps the podcast do well. If you really like it, share to social media or leaving a review would just be the greatest little Christmas present you could give me, and I would appreciate it. So, we are going to do what we do with every episode. We are going to pray quick, and then we will get right into it. Dear God, dear God, dear God, dear God, as we close out 2024, please let us just be so proud of everything that we have accomplished. I hope that every listener knows the impact that they've had on the day to day, but also that macro equation of what is going on, that we have no idea the ripple effect of conversations that have happened that are going to circle back. It's so easy when we are in alignment and things are happening quickly, and there's these quantum leaps that are happening, and you have this idea, and then you happen to run into that person in the grocery store, and then you get that email, and it all is just like, oh my gosh, how did this all happen? But we know, God, that these are divine moments that have been lining up for months and years, maybe even decades. I don't know how far back you go. You probably go quite a bit back. So let us just continue to be patient, especially those of us that are very impatient, like me. And let us just trust in this process of continuing to show up every day, be disciplined, be loving, be kind, and do the work of learning what purpose and mission you have planted in our heart, and continuing to have that grit to show up and be resilient every day, because just because it is planted in our heart does not mean it's going to be easy. It is never promised to be easy. So give us all the courage we can possibly have to be resilient in 2025 and continue your work. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay. So, clip 1, we have Dr. Austin Cohen. This is episode 286, so it's relatively new. This segment is called Is a Hustle Era Necessary? Now, you're going to get my little opinion on this. Dr. Austin has like 14 clinics. He spoke at Chiro WealthCon in Miami in October at our event. And he is incredible, like just a very charismatic guy that is like a wise Buddha who just like everything he says, you're like, ooh, I should write that down. So I would recommend going back and listening to the entire episode, because it was really good. But, I think that in this little clip, this is one of my soapboxes. I have lots of soapboxes, so many boxes of soap, people. But one of them is that I think what is best for the profession is that we are reminded that this hustle era is necessary, and having grit and resilience is necessary, and that there is a time to coast and there is a time to work your ass off. And I recommend working your ass off as long as you can, because that will be the level of success that you're able to get. And then don't quit, rest, and then get your ass back in there. So you might rest while you are working on building your family. That's okay, girl. Get back in there. Or dudes, you can rest while you're building your family too. You may rest during a period where your staff, you're doing a turnover of staff and you're low staff. That's okay. Get back in there when you're ready. It's okay to rest. Just don't quit. So, in this episode, or in this little clip, Dr. Austin and I discuss our own hustle eras, the difference between generations, thinking on how much you work, and if it's necessary to put career first and go all out in your early days. Enjoy. The question is do you think like maybe you could have gone home and just like obsessed about tweets from your own house, but you still would have been working. But like, could you imagine getting to the level of success you've gotten to without the hustle era?
I would say yes. However,
Okay.
I would still have to have hustled. Here's where I went wrong. And by the way, for those that are newer in business, not even practice, right? Like anybody in business could value from this conversation. And I'll tell you why. Is like I'm in chapter 15 right now. If
Hmm.
you're a new grad, you're in chapter one. You are not comparing your chapter one to my chapter 15. And if you are, that's going to be a big mistake on your part because you can't do that, of course, right? But I think when I was early on, it was more so about I wasn't good at time management, right?
Okay.
And the key was I wasn't present. So I may be at like a marketing event and I'm really not like understanding how to maximize this marketing event because I'm also trying to be a good husband, trying to be a good friend, and really just being where your feet are. Like that's one of like the lines I live my life by and I teach my kids is like be where your feet are. Like when you're at dinner with your family, you're dinner with your family. When you're in school, you're in school. There's literally nowhere else you can go while you're in school. When you're on the baseball field, you're on the baseball field. Like if you're always where your feet are at, life actually can be a little bit easier. But to early on, if you're in chapter one, chapter two, chapter three in any business, you got to hustle
Yes,
and you got to grind.
there's no shortcut. And like I feel like right now there's so much on social media. I mean, not from the Gary V's, not from the Hermosis, not from those people, but like there's these like and I don't know their life, so I shouldn't call them fake coaches, like business coaches. But, like, it's so easy to sell, like, "Oh, you're not successful because you're not working or you're working too much." It's kind of like, you're doing it wrong. If you feel like you're having to hustle in the beginning, you're doing something wrong. Like, that's the underlying thread that I feel like so many new startups are being fed, and so they feel like they're like, I'm working like 60 plus hours a week and this is hard and I am grinding. What am I doing wrong? But like if you're a coach selling a lifestyle, then it's like, well, come tell me, I'll pay me and I will tell you like how you can accomplish so much more working 10 hours a week.
But that coach, what I would ask that coach is just being obviously a three Enneagram, but also somebody who would ask a lot of questions, always asking a lot of questions would be, well, what did you do in your chapter one and your chapter two? Like, don't tell me how you're living your life now. I want to know, like, what did you do when you first started? Because to me, like, that is the ultimate testament. It'd be like chiropractors, and you hear this all the time. I'll get patients come in and they'll say, oh, yeah, my chiropractor had me just come twice a year. I was like, did you ever ask the chiropractor how often they get adjusted? Because I bet you it's once a week or every other week. So they're telling somebody something that like they want to be fed because the chiropractors are probably a poverty mindset and they want to be liked. So they tell the patient, like, just come in a couple times a year. We'll take good care of you rather than telling them what the patient actually needs because maybe they feel like they're going to be a salesperson or they feel like they're overdue, like asking for too much money or like whatever it is. But I'm very like, and one thing you'll learn about me is the people who I look up to and my mentors, for example, and coaches are people who are doing it, right? Like I could tell anybody how to have a good marriage. Hey, Lauren, just do date nights, go on these travels like once a quarter, do all these things. If I'm not doing it, it's very easy to tell somebody what to do, right?
Hmm.
But to your point, you got to grind. You got to grind. You got to hustle, and you got to get uncomfortable, right? If you're not tired in your first 3 years in business, I don't think you're going to make your potential amount of income. Like I was tired. I was uncomfortable. I
You
walked.
got that new girl energy. You got to do it then. Because if you don't have the
Yes.
energy in those first 3 years, there's no way you're getting it 10 years in. Like it's not
No
happening.
chance. I walked. So ready for this? When I first started, I walked. There's a road in Atlanta called Peachtree Road. Okay. I walked up and down that street for it was 14 days straight, and I wanted to meet 1,000 people. And what I would do is I'd walk into a business. So I'd walk into your business, say, "Hey, I'm Dr. Austin. I'm thinking about opening up a chiropractic office down the street. Would you say one, this is a health conscious community?" And you'd be like, "Yeah, I think so." Great. Are there any doctors in the community you think that are good people I should connect with or refer to that maybe aren't so pushing pills, but they're maybe more focused on preventative healthcare? And they'd be like, I really don't. I said, you know what? I've really thought about this and I think I can be that for this community. I'm having an open house in 6 months. I'd love to invite you if you're interested in coming. And they'd be like, absolutely. And I get their email address, by the way. And Lauren, I did that for 1,000 people. But by the way, for those that are listening are thinking that was easy for him, right? It's very easy for us to portray like our beliefs on other people.
Hmm.
It wasn't easy for me, actually. It was very uncomfortable. And my hands were shaking when I would walk into businesses. I was extremely nervous. And I remember times where I would be like, I don't want to walk into the Wells Fargo, man. I don't, what are they going to think about me? I mean, there's a lot of people in there. It's kind of a big office. And that's when I had to get out of my head and just do what was uncomfortable. And for those that are listening, it's like, if your coach is keeping you comfortable and in a warm zone, that's scary. Like, I don't know how you're going to grow. That's why I love when people do endurance races, because you got to get uncomfortable doing an endurance race. It's a challenge. It's going to push you harder. You're going to grow from it. Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm laughing internally because I have heard new docs come to be like, well, my new coach said I don't need to work on the weekends and do screenings. Like, well, your new coach doesn't like money.
Screenings are old. And it's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. They freaking work. Okay, so reminder that is episode 286. If you want to go back and listen to the whole thing, we covered so many different topics, but all of it good. This next episode is episode 256, and this is a solo. So this is actually just me by my lonesome, answering some of your just like quick questions from Instagram, questions that didn't necessarily need a whole episode. This was a really fun episode to record. Now, on this note, while I was going back through the year, I realized how few solos I do. And it's because, it can be kind of lonesome over here and it is fun to have a guest, but they do really, really well. Like, they allow me to get my thoughts out for you, in a vulnerable and honest way, and you guys like them. So, I've already told you my goal for 2025 is, I think I already admitted it. It's like 1 a month, and we're trying to keep them to, like, 30 minutes, nice and, like, short. That's short for me. So hopefully more solos are coming. So this segment name is what I wish they taught chiropractic students in school. And this is where I'm answering one of the questions. What is one thing you wish they taught chiropractic students in school? And you're going to be shocked at my answer. You're just going to be shocked. So listen. What's one thing you wish you were taught back in school? So there's a lot of answers on this one, and like they were all really good. A lot of the answers came down to how to actually run a business. Now, when I graduated in 2010, we did have a couple trimesters of a business course. What was his name? Something Erickson. And I thought he did good, like even at Northwestern and stuff, y'all. But looking at, all right, let's just take my sample here. And like I'm gonna play devil's advocate for the schools a little bit because y'all know that we're a little divided, right? In like how we like to practice, especially the next question of how many patients per day a week is your ideal volume and why. Woo-hoo. The answers on that one are interesting, but we'll get to that in a sec. So I had a graduating class of like 110. And first of all, what the business class did do was teach us how to write a business plan, which was helpful information. I also don't know what else we talked about in there. Maybe there was marketing. It was a long time ago. And ultimately, whatever they were doing in 2010 is probably not what they're doing now in 2024. So I think that schools are trying to give some business advice. But the analogy I use for it is it's like someone trying to teach you how to crochet, but you don't have yarn and needles yet. You're just like learning through a PowerPoint and they're going like, and then you're going to slip this piece through that loop. And you're like, yeah, okay. Yep. Sounds easy. Yep. I'll totally remember that and execute that when the time has come. And then a year later, 5 years later, you finally get yarn and needles in hand and you're like, "Wait, what was the first step?" Like it's a hard thing to teach. Keep in mind that there are entire degrees, 4-year degrees, 6-year degrees, MBAs on teaching business. So when we're like, all like, they should teach you how to actually run a business, like, oh, okay. So do you want, like, what does that mean to you? Do you want basically a minor in finance with your chiropractic degree? Like, should we make that optional? Because a lot of chiropractors maybe don't want to start a business. Or like, okay, if we're going to talk marketing, well, that means that like we need to agree on some messaging or like, within my class, there were some of us that were We knew we wanted to go on and be pretty high volume straight chiropractors. Others were running more of a boutique rehab style. And so, like, how that teacher is supposed to be like, okay, well, y'all over here are going to be running 5-minute adjustments at $40 or 45, and y'all over here are going to be doing max 10 a day and charging $100. And that's okay. So, what I think is realistic is, instead of how to run a business, because that's big. Like I said, it's not really a doable thing unless we're looking at adding on an entire year of school, and then you have to trust that that school is in alignment with who you want to be in practice, that you're going to take business advice from them, right? Like, there's different business schools, there's different trains of thought. I would rather see, if we were going to add, them teach how to think about money and talk more about money and how to make it and what to do with it once you start making it. I think that we have very little financial literacy in chiropractic, and that's an issue. So, like, when people are going, how to actually run a business, I think the underlying thread they're saying is understanding profit margins, understanding that you only have so much time and energy. And if you want to make a certain amount, then you have only certain variables you can play with. So, like, I would rather see some more like money mindset and financial literacy talk than like what people mean when they're like how to run a business. Like, you want them to teach you how to do an Excel spreadsheet? Like, I want to learn how to look at a profit loss statement and like how to run an efficient business without, and like learn about overhead and like investment of like, so I think many chiropractors had a really good year where their accountant has said, congratulations, you made 80,000 more this year that you get to pay taxes on. Please write that check. And they like look at their bank account and they're like, well, where'd that 80 grand go? Like, I are you sure I made 80,000 more? Because I don't have 80,000 sitting around this year to pay those on. And like, those are the kind of things where it's like financial literacy and thinking about how money flows through a business and what you can use your money to do, is great. So I think if we had some of that in school, that would be helpful in answering kind of this next question. Okay, so are you shocked that my answer was business? It was a joke. I knew you wouldn't be shocked. It's kind of all what I talk about: financial literacy, business, just how to run a business. That would be great. And they do try. Like, this isn't a knock at chiropractic schools. Believe me, I would knock at chiropractic schools for so many other things. They try. But like, the analogy that I always use is like teaching a chiropractor business and chiropractic school is like teaching you how to crochet before you have yarn and needles, and then like a year and a half later trying to reference and being like, wait, now what, how was I supposed to tie the knot, and like actually starting to do it. So could they talk about it more? Yes, but like, I don't know. There's a part, I'm a pragmatist. I think they're doing their best. Like, so this next episode, let me make sure. Yep. So this is episode 259, and this is Dr. Ryan Reeder. This was a fun episode. He is such an entertaining lad. And we're titling this clip Marketing Wants versus Need Purchases. So we are discussing the challenges of marketing in small towns, particularly for services like chiropractic, where maybe educational efforts can face community skepticism. Like, I don't know if you don't know what I'm talking about. You don't live in you live in a town where other people market. I do not. People do not market in my town, right? I know. So when we market, like, they're like, ew, you're trying to sell me something. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to sell you a better life. Shut up, Barb. So we also touch on the psychological triggers, sales processes required to convince people to invest in services, when end results are intangible. So really great clip. You're going to love it. So Dr. Ryan Reeder, episode 259. Enjoy. So what happens though? So, all right, I'm just thinking, I'm in a very, very small town. And this is where, like, anytime we've worked with a marketing firm or like talked to them, they don't get how small we
Yeah.
are. So 9,000 people,
Yeah.
no, like, and we're the big town.
Yeah.
Like, we're the town. Have you ever, here, I'm going to teach you something. Have you ever heard someone say, "Oh, we're the town with a Walmart in it"?
Haven't, but now I have.
Okay, so you're welcome. I won't charge you for this piece of marketing advice that you'll need. So, when you are working with a small town, if your client says, "We're the town with a Walmart," or you can add, like, to figure out how small, ask them if they have a Walmart and
Yes.
how close is the town that has the Walmart.
Yes.
This will 100% resonate. If someone is like, "Yeah, we have, like, 3 Walmarts." Mm-mm, they're not small town. They might be, but they're not,
Ah,
like, micro small town.
I'm with you. I'm
Er
with you.
so we're the town with the Walmart,
Yeah.
which means that we pull, like, we don't have as much of an issue getting people from smaller towns to come to us multiple times. They may drive 45 minutes. That's not a problem because while I'm in town, I can go to Walmart, the equivalent of Home Depot. Like, they can, like, run their errands because they're in such a small town that they can't run errands in their town.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's one of the things that we really run into is like when we are doing Facebook ads or
Mm,
like
mm,
lunch
mm,
and learns, like
mm.
we are also one of the only businesses that markets. Okay, so we've got the hospitals will do their advertising. There
Yes.
is a couple car, like big car, what are they called? Sales lots.
Yes. Yes.
They
Yes.
will. Yep.
Yes.
And then there's, like, a boutique who does a really good job just, like, naturally, but, like, selling clothing and beauty is, like, so much easier, like, people wanna shop type of thing.
Yeah.
We're really the only clinic, not just chiropractic clinic, there's our vet clinics, our dentists, like, nobody does educational things, and so we're on year 14. This question turned into a consulting call, by the way.
No,
We
literally,
don't
I'm
know.
taking note. Like, listen, I can't help myself. I'm
Right,
taking notes.
good, I'm
I'm
glad. I
like,
was like, I don't
what
know
do you
where this
do?
question started.
And tell me what you're doing currently because,
Mhm,
okay, so I'm with you. I'm
yeah.
with you. I
So
love
for
it.
the first 8 or 9 years, we were doing very regular health talks, like probably 6 a year type of thing. We did have 2 years where we did like the new patient wellness thing. That's a whole separate thing. It just wasn't I didn't love it. I didn't love it. So, but what's happening now is we really struggle getting people to come to things because
Uh,
we're the only one. So the idea that we are just here to educate.
uh,
Mm-mm. It's
uh-uh.
it's become like, "No, no, no, this is a bait and switch. I'm on to you." And I'm not saying this is the narrative in my head in our community, is because we hit a wall with COVID. Obviously, like, we stopped doing talks and stuff during that, even though we're pretty red up here, and I have a feeling people still would come. But we just can't get back into people wanting to come, even when we're marketing it as like, these concepts that are, it's not like how chiropractic can change your life. It's pregnancy workshops, things like that. But it feels as though our community is so cynical of like, oh, yeah, you're the chiropractor that markets. Like, and it's a hard thing to overcome because
Yeah.
nobody else here around here markets. Nobody.
Yeah.
Now, we're still the largest and best and this and that, but like when you're wanting to grow more and get more new patients, you're
Yeah.
also looking at like when you're placing an ad on Facebook or Google, like
Mm, mm,
to do like a demographics thing of like, we want ages 21 to 55 females with kids.
mm. No,
They're
no,
putting us out.
there is no, there's the idea of the perfect avatar has its place when in bigger markets. But when you're 9,000 people and you're going to ask, especially on Facebook, you're going to put in Facebook, I want to only target females
Mhm.
between 45 and 50 or whatever. It's like, good
Yeah.
luck with that. Because
Facebook will literally say you can't run that ad.
exactly, it's like, there's nobody to target or it's only 1,000 people and won't even let you do that. So
Right.
yeah, I'm with you. So question is,
Uh, how would you fix that?
there's so many
We're
things.
14
Okay.
years
So
in. We're 14 years in. And so,
yeah.
like, definitely, it's a different world than it was 14 years ago. That's for sure. But like, I just
Yeah.
like you can't get it doesn't seem like the dinner with a doc.
I've got you. I've got
People
you.
yeah.
So let me tell you where I'll take this question. And it's you said something very important that I have to just quickly talk about. Have you ever heard the difference, the concept of a grudge purchase versus a want purchase? A grudge purchase, like a need purchase versus a want purchase. Have
Mm-mm,
you ever?
mm-mm.
So there are nuances in the way that you market and sell. For example, people want a brand new Mercedes Benz. People want an iPhone. At movies or cinema or whatever you call it here, people want popcorn. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you look at the way they structure their pricing structure, it's more want purchase versus what we call grudge purchase. Nobody comes into our offices and goes, I really hope the chiropractor says I have to come here for the next like 2 years.
Right.
I
Right.
really like, oh, please, please, please. You know, like, hope. Yes. Is that remember? Amazing. Yes, I'll go for the bigger one. I want the bigger one. I want the longer one. Can I have the longer one, please?
Yeah.
Whereas people walk into Lamborghini, wherever it is, and there are people that go, I want the most expensive one with the most things. Because there's all sorts of emotional and stuff triggers. We don't get to play in that world.
Right.
We play in a world that we're trying to educate and convince people to take action on their health when they really don't want to. Okay.
Or they want it served the way that our current healthcare system is like easy
exactly
fixes.
results yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's just not the game we're in. So we're in a, I have this irritating habit of listening to a lot of books for people, but I do believe one of the greatest books that people should read when it comes to selling chiropractic is a book called Selling the Invisible by Harry Beckwith. And it talks about this concept of, if you think about selling a service is selling the visible. Like people pay for a haircut before they know what the product is. Imagine so let's say the first time you go to a hairdresser, you're like, hey, it's how much, Lauren, how much is it? You tell me.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I'm not if you're
I
watching the
bet yours
podcast, if you're
is a
listening to the podcast
lot.
now, there's a bald man here that has no context for how much it is to go to a salon. How much?
Well, half of this hair is fake. So a quarterly, probably like $1,200.
Okay, cool. So you're going to pay $1,200. You're going to go there, and the first time you go to the place, it's like, please give us $1,200, and you have zero idea what the end product's going to look like. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. The process of getting someone to part with their hard-earned cash to pay for that thing is deep psychological triggers and needs that have to be worked on to sell that process. In chiropractic, you have to convince them, if you will, or get them to part with their hard-earned cash, and they don't know what the end result's going to be. And then we have a million things. There's social proof that you can build into your social media. There's testimonials. There's, do you adjust Tom Brady? Like, if you trust Tom Brady, like, people are going to be like, I trust you more, and here's my money. It's just, if you've been on Oprah,
Right.
you don't really need to do much marketing. You're good.
Yep.
People are going to throw money at you. It's all good. But if you're lacking that, you really do have to understand the process of, I know you want to say something there. You want to
Well, so what's interesting is you're talking about this invisible. So like women will go to a hairdresser with a picture from Pinterest. So
Yeah.
they will have, and it's always going to be like this gorgeous model. And they're just like, I just want to look like this. And it's like, so they have this inspiration. They have a picture in their head
Yes.
of what this end result is going to be.
Yes. So that's they want to go towards the fancy car, the nice haircut, the whatever. In chiropractic, essentially, we're in away from most of the time. Most people come to us because they want to move away from a significant challenge in life. They want to move away from the pain, away from the fact that they can't. Even though they want to be able to play with their kids, they won't be. The first part of that is, I want to move away from the sharp pain when I bend down, or away from the way I feel. So that's like the difference between a want purchase
I
and
get
a
it.
purchase.
People don't go, yes. You don't go to
It's
your hair
away
salon
from
because you're
something.
like, I feel ugly. Get me away from feeling ugly.
Yeah.
You're inspired by going towards aesthetically
Ah.
pleasing in chiropractic. But chiropractors are often so trying to be like,
Yes.
move toward this
Yes.
and not
Yes.
focusing on away from this.
Yeah, which is so inbuilt in us. So when I started doing workshops and health classes, I couldn't help myself. You hear every single some people we really admire that change their life talk about never diagnose, and we never talk about pain. And then when you observe them, like they do diagnose, they just point to an X-ray and say, you've got something. It's called a subluxation.
Mhm.
So we deal in a diagnostic and prescriptive sale. Okay.
Mhm.
So everyone, I know I triggered someone by saying the word
Oh
diagnostic,
God, yeah.
but stick with me. Yeah. It's like, I don't care how vitalistic you are. The most vitalistic chiropractor I know, who I love with all my heart, still puts up an X-ray, points it, and goes, "There's your problem. It's called a subluxation. Would you like me to fix it?" I'm paraphrasing, but you
Mhm.
get it's away from something. So first of all, I just couldn't help share that with people for a moment. If you're struggling, whether it's to convert, just there sometimes has to be an element of that built into your sales process, and it's not necessarily pain, or diagnosis that we talk about. It's finding out how it's affecting their life and asking the good questions, and kind of like
Mhm.
almost like you've done with me on this interview. You've kind of wanted to, you've even said to me like, why did you do that? What was the pain, challenge, or
Mhm.
thing that drove you to do that? It's a similar process. Like, why are you here? Like, Ryan, why did you end up doing this psychotic thing, running multiple businesses? I want to understand that. What was the pain behind that? What was the thing? And that in that, what I call truth finder questions, the truth is the most persuasive thing. It's like, why are you really here? Like,
Mhm.
what do you want to move away from? And then in that, the sale becomes a lot easier.
Okay, we are moving from marketing to spirituality. So this is episode number 246. So you're gonna have to go way back, to get to it. And this is Dr. Nona Javid. She has been on a couple times. She's delightful, just so like spiritual, but not in like a woo, like over your head kind of way, like very accessible. So this is for all of my control freaks and micromanagers out there. If you don't think you have control issues, you either have done a lot of therapy and you know you used to have control issues, or you're still in the pre awareness stage. Control issues are one of the things that will absolutely hold your business back. I want you to know that. Um, I work with a lot of chiropractors on getting more freedom into their life. It's kind of what I've become known for. And you cannot get freedom while you're still really trying to control the microcosm of what's happening on a day to day basis in your clinic. So there are systems, there are procedures, there's conversations, there's meetings, there's a whole way that you do this in your clinic. But kind of step one is realizing how to give up control uh, in a safe way, in an appropriate way at your clinic, and not just being like, "Yeah, here you go, you deal with it." Like that's also not the right way to do it. If you're like, "Hey, that sounds really good," you should really check out the Multi Passionate Chiropreneur. Like, I don't know when you're listening, but we are starting on January 27th. Doors close the 24th. If you're listening to this episode as it like the week of, so like the week of December 30th through January 3rd, there's like a special $500 discount that happens this week only if you book your call. So like get on it. Get on it. And if you're a little shy, you're like, I don't want to do a discovery call because you think I'm going to sell you on stuff. Keep in mind, I don't want to say I turn down about 30% of calls or people on the calls, but about 30% of calls we decide that this isn't the right timing for you in the program. So like it really is not a sales call. It's truly like, hey, let's chat and see if you're still shy. You can just send me a Voxer. Okay. So if you don't know what Voxer is, it is a free app like walkie talkies. Download it, find my handle on there. It's at Lauren Slays the Day. Okay. And just shoot me a voice memo on there and we can just kind of chat chalantly, nonchalantly. What is chalantly then? Is like that, like uptight? We will not be chalant. We will be so nonchalant in our talking. Who am I introducing? Oh, Nona. All right. So this clip is Dr. Nona Javid, episode 246 on letting magic happen in your life. I think it probably comes back to control. Like, I have like a lot of control issues. So I would say, like, if they said yes, they did what I wanted them to do. And
Okay.
then I don't have to deal with the frustration of like, I wanted them to say yes to this.
So you also feel in control.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
I don't know. I think that's it. If you know, though, feel free to insert.
You gotta come up with them. So okay, I want to be a good chiropractor.
Yep.
I close 5 out of 5, and the feelings that I'm going after are because I want to feel in control. Why do you want to feel in control? And you want to win. We got that too.
Well, because nobody wants to be out of control.
Why not?
That sounds horrible.
Well, it depends on
What
what.
is that where the magic lives? In the uncontrolled? Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Zone. Exactly.
Ah, fuck. Oh, so my controlling because okay, so is what you're saying is that okay, so because like the universe is where the magic is. And so like me trying to control is really keep all right.
Okay, I that took a different turn that I was controlling for it to go anyways, but
Hmm.
it's much more beautiful anyways because the recognition
Where
that
were
for
you going?
I was going with, okay, I want to feel like I'm doing something like for me, right? Why do I want to be successful? And I just kind of touched on this before too, but why do I want to create success? Because I want to, first of all, I want to look, because I think you told me I was a three, and
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
you're a three wing too.
how you look in public and on
Yeah.
Instagram,
Yeah.
right?
We're vain as fuck.
Yeah, exactly. So why do I want that? Well, because I want people to perceive me as successful. Well, why do
Yes.
to perceive me as successful? Because it makes me feel good. Why do
Mhm.
I want to feel good? Because it makes me worthy. It makes me likable. Because if
Mhm.
they don't like me, then I'm not worthy to be liked, right? And so I could have godly amounts of success, and I would still have that if I didn't work on that inner self, right? If I have a control issue, I am going to avoid magic. It doesn't matter how much I can control, right?
I mean, all that likable stuff is also a yes. So it's both. So I'm double.
By my staff, because they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, you're amazing. Like 5 out of 5 you closed, right?" I want to be
Mhm.
liked by my patients. I want to be liked by my community. I want my business to grow so that I'm liked more because I'm more successful and I got more numbers, number of patients, number of dollar amounts, whatever. So then I don't even know where we're going with this, but basically, if that's what I'm trying to oh, this is what I wanted to kind of make a micro distinction here. If you're telling me that there's a difference between going into the 5 ROFs and saying, "Oh, I'm going to close 5 out of 5," that's more on the masculine energy.
Mhm.
Instead, if I identify that I'm doing this to feel in control, if that's I mean, we could go a lot deeper. Like if you and I talked and we had unlimited number of hours, we'd probably dig out so many other things that are underneath it all. But let's just stick with in control and loss of magic. So then I go, oh, I just had this recognition that for as long as I want to feel in control and feel like I'm winning and feel like I'm being successful, then I'm gonna lose out on magic. And let's say you decide you want magic, and if
Mhm.
that's the case, then you go, I'm gonna do 5 ROFs and I'm gonna experience loads of magic. So you go into the ROFs, and then all of a sudden, someone is telling you, "Oh my gosh, like I can't believe that you went to this high school. Like we went to high school together." Like stuff like that, like a
Mhm.
synchronicity happens, or you feel sort of connected to these people in such a way. And that's that the outcome you're going for is not 5 out of 5. The outcome you're going for is massive self worth, is magnetism,
Mhm.
abundance, is I'm already taken care of. I have faith in what I'm about to experience in the next 5. I is going to be magic. So then if the 5 don't sign up, guess what you experienced? Absolute magic in the unknown.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
So it's all what it's not putting such an alpha energy outcome of like I dominated, I s- I won, I beat them, I controlled, I did like yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So it's putting the outcome more into because like when you put the outcome in something that's really out of your own control. Like, like when my husband would be like, "What can we control?" apparently my emotions are the only thing that's controllable. And I'm like, actually, that's the thing that's the least controllable. So like, okay, we can only control ourselves. So like, for instance, we're going to Mexico. We're leaving in like 2 days. And we've done a lot of all inclusives. We go every year with our kids, and we have not returned to a single one. Like, we love them, but like, all inclusives, unless you're pumping out like 5 grand a day, like they each got their own thing. And so I'm like preparing for like, okay, I read in the reviews that all the pool chairs are completely reserved by 7 a.m. Okay, we're just gonna, like that sucks. Okay, I've read multiple reviews that people got sick of eating chicken and seafood. Don't eat the chicken. So I'm mentally preparing for like I'm setting the bar low, right? Because what I want, my outcome is I want this resort to be amazing. But what I've learned in the last 20 minutes is so instead of going, okay, well, the resort might suck and it's okay. We could still have fun as a family, great. Put the outcome on something that's more in my control. I can't determine whether the food is going to be great, but I can determine or I can have more control over how present I am with my family, which will help establish like, so I can say like the resort's gonna be what it is, but I really hope this trip is magical and that we have connection with our kids and I'm present for my family and that seems just a lot like it just takes a weight off. It takes a huge weight off the vacation because it's like, oh, that is actually something I can control. All that other stuff I couldn't.
Yeah. And what if you don't get the chair at 7 a.m.? And what if the chicken is yucky and whatever? But what if because you couldn't get the chair and you end up sitting somewhere else and you connect with somebody who becomes your next best friend or your next guest
Mhm.
on the podcast or whatever? That's the unknown. That's
Mhm.
if I'm controlling the situation, I will get what I'm expecting anyways. Bad chicken and wake up at 7 to get a chair, right? Versus if I'm looking for magic, I'm more likely to experience magic in the moment in like a look that you give to your husband, in a moment where you're watching your girls play together. Like there's
Mhm.
magic everywhere. And that's where I feel like I've gone from, even my brand of like part-time $1 million mastermind. My practice for sure, like super masculine, super like I'm gonna control the shit out of every aspect. I'm gonna control like my staff like could not be one word off with from the scripts, like the systems. And I looked at it like this is business. Like this is and it drove the business massively. But then I'd forgotten about the feminine aspects of it, which is really powerful. Like we give
Mhm.
birth, right? Like we are
Mhm.
the vessel in which life literally comes through. And if that is who we are, then magic is just like super easy to experience. That dream life you can give birth to. You don't need to push to make happen. You don't need to control to make happen. That's been sort of my journey from, being in practice and running those businesses. And I can say from a finance, because my me back then, that version of me, if I heard this conversation right here, I would have been like, yeah, I bet she's not even making as much money because she doesn't have the system. She's probably super flowy and super da da da, like ditzy or all over the place. Except I've actually generated more. I've experienced more freedom, more magic, more connection, more of so much just juiciness in life by letting go of the control, by letting go of the things that don't really serve.
Mhm. Okay, final clip of 2024, people. Another banger of an episode. This is episode 276 with Barbara Shreehands. Now, she is a luxury tax strategist. I love her content. She's very informative in stories. Like have you been like following the BOI debacle? Like she just released something today being like, oh, it's extended. Like she Really, really helpful, does free masterclasses throughout the year. Like I took her real estate free masterclass and have like 6 pages of notes on tax strategy. So she gives a lot. So make sure you're following her on Instagram. Go listen to the entire episode, 276. Wonderful. She also spoke at Cairo WealthCon in October. So she was great enough that we invited her there. So this segment's name is how much you spend on your CPA versus how much you save because of your CPA. And she's going to explain like pricing model, why it's different. So they can actually do what's needed for you and break down some examples of how much you pay for your taxes to be done versus how much you're saving on your taxes and which actually ends up benefiting you more. So enjoy. But, like, I would just assume every person, every accountant would hear a strategy thing and be like, "That's cool. I want to
Mhm.
immediately tell every single one of my clients." So, like, why why do some, like, get more excited and, like, go this I just don't understand.
'Cause they also don't know how to price it. So they're like, boring accountants are like, "Well, I'm learning these new things maybe, but no one's gonna pay for it because 'cause they've
Oh,
never charged that way." Whereas we have always value priced. And so our strategy clients, they get everything. Like they're paying us monthly to tell them everything that we know. And so anytime we learn anything, it's like, I'm happy to educate you, to come up with a course, to have a master class. Like later today, we're having a Q&A with all of our strategy clients, and we have different topics every month. And it's because like people need to know these things, but other accounting firms have never charged that way. Typically, they're like law firms where you're charged every like 6 minutes because that's like 1/10 of an hour. So every 6 minutes you're talking with them. So they think if they call their client and tell them about a strategy, oh, well, now I have to charge them zero point 0.3 of an hour, and are they gonna pay it? Whereas
are they gonna be
everyone
mad that I, like, charge
yeah,
them to, like, call
yeah. Whereas we like everyone pays us up front and everyone pays us monthly. So it's like you get all the thing.
Right. So I had heard just a very, very successful entrepreneur describe this question of like, how do you find the right account? And he talked about how, like, as your income increases, your need for and what you're willing to pay
Mhm.
for a tax strategist goes up. And so like a lot of the reality is that a lot of America, well, this is me mansplaining to you. So like let me know if you agree with it. I would assume most of America, like they don't have like they've got their, middle class to lower middle class. There's not a lot of strategy. They're looking to like file their taxes with H&R Block at Walmart type of thing. Like they're
Yeah.
getting a refund. And so but then when you start to become an entrepreneur or you're in these tax categories where you're like, I don't want to pay 37%, or you're like, I don't want to do that. Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're like, when you're looking at, well, you with the right tax strategist could cut $100,000 off what the IRS says you owe them, but you need to pay
Mhm.
$40,000 to the right accountant or tax strategist to save that 100,000. Like,
Mhm.
is that like, do you agree with that thinking about when to up level?
Yeah, totally. And you're right on like the pricing. It's like, what are you willing to spend to save money on your taxes? So if someone can save you $100,000, how much would you pay that person? Some people will tell me $99,999. Like if you're saving me one more dollar than what I'm paying you, like
And I'd rather
amazing.
give it to you than
That's what they say. They're like, I'd rather give it to you than the IRS. And it's a business deduction when they pay me. When you pay your
Mm,
taxes, that's not a deduction. So, but then some people might be like, well, I'm only willing to pay 40,000 to save 100 or 25 to pay 100. So it really just it depends, but
mhm.
then you have to get over the hurdle of like if they're not willing to pay my prices, it's like, well, then your accountant that you're already with is costing you X amount. So you think they're cheap, but if they're costing you, maybe they're
Right.
$5,000 for the year, but they're costing you 100,000 extra in taxes, like you're actually paying them 105,000.
Yeah, that's a really interesting, like, because they didn't save you money, they cost you way more
Yeah.
than 5,000.
Mhm.
Okay, She Slayers, this has been an absolute delight of part 2 with you. I just, from the bottom of my heart, if you're still listening, I just want to let you know how much I truly, truly appreciate you being on the other end of this. I don't know if I say it too often or not enough. I'm kind of not like a mushy, feely kind of girl that gives validation to people. So maybe I don't say it enough. Maybe you're like, Lauren, I get it. You like me. Stop being so clingy. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for sharing the podcast. Thank you for reviewing it. Just honestly, thank you for showing up. Like, knowing those of you that are listening every week, it makes me so validated. I really feel like we're friends. Hopefully that's not weird for you. You know a lot about me. So since you're still listening, you probably think of me as a friend. I hope that this next year is bigger than you can even conceive in love and abundance and relationships and experiences, because you are so worth it. And I believe in you just like you believe in me. And if you are struggling, please know that I'm always on the other end of a DM, usually on Instagram. Facebook, I'm not on that much. I will eventually get to you, but like if this is a crisis, don't message me on Facebook, because 6 months later, I'll finally get back to you. So Instagram is where it's at. Or you can shoot me a Voxer, but like I am here for you. I want all the success that is even remotely possible for you in 2025. All right. See you next year.